Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hey everyone, my name is Ibrahim Iqbal. I am from Bahasa Margonda University. In this video, I am going to take you inside the computer and show you what actually happened under the case. You might see that computer is just a box that runs your apps or games. But inside, there are many amazing components working together, just like the organs in our body. So, let's open it up and let's see what's inside. First, we have motherboard. Think of it as the main highway of the central nervous of your computer. Every component, the CPU, RAM, GPU, and storage, connects to the motherboard so they can communicate with each other. Without it, nothing would really work because it's the part of connects everything into the one system. It also has a lot of tiny circuits and slots, where each piece of the hardware fits in perfectly. So yeah, the motherboard is literally the foundation of your computer. Next up, we got the CPU or Central Processing Unit. You've probably heard people call it the brain of the computer. And that's absolutely right. The CPU is responsible for thinking. It handles all the calculation, logic, and instruction needed to make your programs run. When you open a game, type something, or browse the internet, the CPU processes every command in just a fraction of a second. Modern CPUs even have a multiple core, which means they can handle many tasks at once. Like in short, the CPU decides what happened and when. Now let's talk about RAM, or Random Access Memory. RAM is like your computer's short-term memory. It stores the information your system currently using so it can access quickly. For example, when you have several apps open, like a browser, music player, and words, RAM keep all that data active and ready to use. But once you turn off the computer, everything in RAM is disappear. That's why it's temporary. It's fast, but it doesn't last. Next, we have storage devices, usually an SSD or an HDD. If RAM is short-term memory, storage is your long-term memory. It keeps your files, photos, game, and operating systems even when the computer is off. Old-school HDDs use spinning magnetic disks, while modern SSDs use flash memory. That's way faster and quieter. That's why computers with SSDs can start up and load up much quicker. So, SSD are kind of like giving your PC an energy drink. Moving on to the GPU, or Graphic Processing Unit. If the CPU is the brain, then the GPU is like the visual artist. It handles everything related to graphic, from rendering image, to playing video, to running games smoothly. GPUs are built to process a huge number of operations in parallel, which is why they are also used for AI, 3D rendering, and video editing today. For gamers or creators, the GPU is definitely one of the most important parts inside the computer. And of course, none of these parts can work without power. That's where the power supply unit, or PSU, comes in. It takes electricity from your wall outlet and converts it into the right voltages for your computer parts. If the PSU fails or doesn't provide enough power, your computer might crash, restart randomly, or even damage the components. So even though it doesn't look exciting, the PSU is like the heart that keeps everything alive. Lastly, let's not forget about the cooling system. When the CPU and GPU work hard, they generate heat, and too much heat can slow things down or even cause damage. That's why we use fans, heatsink, or even liquid cooling to keep everything at a safe temperature. A cool computer can run smoother, last longer, and performs better overall. So, that's what's inside the computer. Every part from the motherboard to the cooling system has its own job, and together they make your computer come to life. In the next part, we'll talk more about hardware in general, including some external components and how they interact with internal ones. Alright, so now that we've seen what's inside the computer, let's take a step back and talk about hardware in general. Because when we say hardware, it doesn't just mean what's inside the case. It also includes all the physical parts that we can actually touch and see. So yeah, hardware is basically everything thinkable in a computer system. What is hardware? Hardware is the physical part of a computer system. Things you can touch, hold, and even replace. It's different from software, which is just code or program that run inside the machine. You can think of hardware as the body and software as the mind. Without hardware, software has nowhere to run. And without software, hardware is just a bunch of metal and silicon doing nothing. They depend on each other to actually make the computer useful. When people talk about hardware, they usually imagine the stuff inside, like the CPU and motherboard. But there are also external hardware components, the ones we interact with every day. For example, your keyboard, mouse, and monitor. These are called input and output devices. The keyboard lets us input text, the mouse helps us navigate, and the monitor displays everything visually. Even things like printers, speakers, or webcam are considered hardware because they are physical tools connected to the computer. In general, hardware is divided into three main types: input devices, output devices, and processing devices. Input devices help us give instruction to the computer, like keyboard, mice, or microphones. Output devices show results like monitors, printers, or speakers. And the processing devices like CPU and GPU are the ones that do the actual work inside the system. It's a simple but powerful structure: input, process, output, and that's how every digital device works, from a laptop to a smartphone. Now, what's cool is how all these components actually talk to each other. Inside the computer, the motherboards act as the communication bridge, connecting internal parts like CPU, RAM, and storage, while the ports and the cables let external devices send and receive data. For example, when you move your mouse, the signal travels through the USB port, gets processed by the CPU, and results appear instantly on your screen. It happens so fast that we don't even realize there are thousands of tiny signals moving every second. That's what the beauty of modern hardware design. So, why is hardware so important? Because it's the foundation of everything we do with the computers. If your hardware is weak or outdated, no matter how good your software is, it won't run smoothly. That's why gamers upgrade their GPU and video editors invest in more RAM or faster SSDs. Hardware determines how fast your system runs, how much it can handle, and how efficiently it works. Simply put, better hardware means better performance. To wrap things up, hardware is like the engine of your computer. It gives power and structure, while software gives direction and purpose. Both are equally important, and together they create the experience we rely on every day. From typing documents to playing games, everything starts with good hardware. So, next time you use your computer, remember, there's a whole world of components inside working perfectly in sync. So, that's it for today's presentation about inside the computer and hardware. We've learned that a computer isn't just one single machine. It's a system made up of many parts, both internal and external, all working together perfectly. Inside the computer, components like the CPU, RAM, and motherboards do all the heavy lifting, processing, storing, and managing data. Meanwhile, hardware as the whole video also include the external devices, like your keyboard, monitor, and mouse, that lets us interact with that system. What's really amazing is how everything from the smallest chip to the biggest display has its own purpose. Each piece of hardware, no matter how small, plays a role in making the technology works the way we want it to. So, next time you turn on your computer, remember, it's not just a screen lighting up, it's the result of thousands of components working in harmony to bring your ideas, your work, and your creativity to life. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this video helps you understand computers a little better. See you next time.